Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up the field of health psychology.
Yeah, it's this really crucial study, isn't it, about how our mind, our mood, how it all connects directly with our physical health.
Exactly, and we're focusing on, well, probably the biggest player in that whole interaction, stress.
Stress, yeah, and, as health psychologists define it, it's pretty simple on the surface. It's just the pressure, the demand placed on you, on the organism, to adjust or adapt.
It sounds like just a feeling, though.
Well, that's what we often think, right?
Yeah.
But our mission today is really to unpack how those demands, those pressures, actually translate into physical mechanisms in the body.
Oh, okay. How they can actually break down the body over time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And also what we can do about it. What psychological shields maybe you already have to protect yourself.
Okay, but before we taint stress as this big villain, we should probably be clear. Not all stress is bad, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Good point. The sources are really clear on this. They distinguish between healthy stress, the kind that keeps us alert, focused, gives us energy when we need to perform.
Like before a presentation or something.
Exactly. We need that. But then there's distress. And that's the unpleasant kind of consuming state. Pain, suffering. It just drains your physical resources.
And that's what health psychologists are usually talking about managing.
Overwhelmingly, yes.
Yeah.
Managing distress.
Right, so let's dig into that. If distress is the state, what triggers it? What are the actual stressors?
Well, they can range quite a bit from, constant low-level stuff right up to huge life events.
So like the everyday things.
Yeah, we start with hassles. Think everyday annoyances, traffic jams, unreasonable demands at work, maybe noisy neighbors.
Little things.
They feel small, yeah.
Yeah.
But the issue is when they pile up, that accumulation creates chronic stress. That sort of persistent grinding tension that just wears you out. It's like constant drip, drip, drip of irritation.
Okay, and then there are bigger things too, right? Like when you're trying to achieve something and you just keep getting blocked.
That's frustration. Definitely a major stressor. And conflict, too, when we feel torn.
Oh yeah, like being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly. That avoidance conflict.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you face a choice, maybe a goal, that has really good things about it, but also really negative sides. Like a dream job offer, but it means moving away from family.
That sounds incredibly stressful, the pull in both directions.
The psychological tension there can be immense. And it's that tension, really, that fuels the physical response we're going to talk about.
Okay. And beyond those kinds of conflicts, there are even more intense events.
Yes, sadly. We have traumatic stressors. These are sudden, often life-threatening events. Things like accidents, assaults, natural disasters. They push your coping abilities way past the limit.
And that can lead to things like PTSD.
Often, yes. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Now, okay, moving from those external events, what about our own patterns, our behaviors? For years, we've heard about the type A behavior pattern.
Ah, yes. Type A. Impatient, super competitive, always feeling rushed, maybe aggressive.
It was always linked to heart problems, wasn't it? Like the classic heart attack personality.
It was, yeah. The boogeyman of heart health, as you said. But this is where some really important nuance comes in from the research.
Okay.
It turns out the general traits like being competitive or, rushing to meet a deadline, those weren't actually the main physical risk factors. So if you're listening and you think, oh, that's me, I'm type A, it doesn't automatically mean your heart is doomed.
Wait, hang on. If type A is defined by being driven, fast-paced, what's the difference then? What is the damaging part?
It's a hostility.
Hostility.
Yes. The specific piece of that type A pattern that research consistently strongly links to coronary heart disease risk.
Yeah.
It's the anger, the cynicism, the aggressive reactions, that hostility component.
Wow. Okay, so it's not about being driven. It's about being angry and cynical while you're driven.
That seems to be the key takeaway. If you identify as type A, the real challenge might not be just slowing down, but managing that underlying hostile way of reacting to things.
That makes a lot more sense, actually. Hostility feels much more corrosive than just being impatient.
Exactly. And one last type of stressor before we move on external social pressures, specifically something called acculturative stress.
Right. This is what immigrants often face.
Adapting to a new culture, a new language. It's inherently stressful. And sadly, it often includes dealing with racism and discrimination, which are major stressors themselves.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. But what's interesting and kind of protective is that the research suggests maintaining a strong connection to your original culture, your traditions. They can actually act as a buffer, a psychological protection against some of those negative effects.
Okay, so we've got the stressors mapped out: hassles, conflicts, trauma, hostility, acculturative stress. Now let's get into the body's reaction, the actual wiring. This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah, because it's not just vague anxiety, is it? It's a full-blown, system-wide hormonal response. And the groundwork for understanding this was laid by Hans Selye.
With his General Adaptation Syndrome,
Gen-
GAS.
Exactly, GAS. Selye noticed something remarkable. Whether the stressor was, say, extreme cold or maybe emotional trauma or even chronic illness, the body tended to respond in a very similar pattern, a general pattern.
Okay, so what's the pattern? What are the stages?
It starts at the alarm stage. This is your immediate reaction. The classic fight or flight response kicks in. Your body mobilizes all its resources to deal with the threat right now.
Heart pounds, muscles tense, adrenaline surges, that kind of thing.
Yep, all those biological changes preparing you to either fight the danger or run away from it.
Okay, but what if the stressor doesn't go away? Like that deadline is still looming or the conflict isn't resolved?
Right. Then the body moves into stage 2, the resistance stage. It tries to adapt, to adjust to the ongoing stress. You're running on these elevated systems, trying to maintain some kind of normalcy, but it's taking a toll. There's a persistent physiological load.
You can't keep that up forever, though.
No, you can't. If the stress continues, you eventually hit the exhaustion stage. Your body's resources just get depleted. It can't maintain that high alert anymore.
And this is where the real health problems start.
This is where the vulnerability really shows. Your resistance lowers, making you much more susceptible to stress-related disorders or even diseases. Your body's defenses are weakened.
Okay, let's get specific then. What's the actual biological machinery driving this whole GAS process? We hear about stress hormones. Walk us through the command center.
Okay, think of it like this. You have this integrated system called the hypothalamic-pituitary-adrenal axis, the HPA axis. It's basically your body's long-term stress alarm system.
HPA axis, got it.
So when stress hits, the hypothalamus that's in your brain, it sounds the first alarm. It releases a chemical messenger, CRH.
Okay.
That CRH tells the pituitary gland, another part of the brain, hey, signal the troops. So the pituitary releases its own hormone, ACTH, into the bloodstream.
ACTH travels through the blood. But where does it go?
It goes down to your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys. They get this high-priority message from the ACTH.
And what do the adrenal glands do when they get the message?
They pump out corticosteroids. These are your main stress hormones, like cortisol. Their job is to boost your resistance to stress, mainly by making stored energy like glucose readily available. Fuel for the fight or flight.
So they help you cope in the short term.
Exactly. They're vital for surviving brief, intense threats. But here's the critical part. This whole HPA system is designed for short bursts. It's not really optimized for chronic, relentless activation, like that chronic stress we talked about.
So if the HPA axis is constantly firing,
Then your body is constantly flooded with corticosteroids. It's running on emergency fuel day in, day out, and that has long-term consequences.
right, and quickly, does everyone react the same way behaviorally when the system kicks in?
Well, the source material points out some interesting general behavioral differences between genders. Women, under stress, tend to engage more in nurturing behaviors, maybe seeking social support, sometimes called tend and befriend.
Okay.
Whereas men are perhaps more likely, statistically speaking, to react with more aggressive or hostile behaviors. So the coping styles can diverge pretty early on.
That difference between short-term fuel and long-term drain seems absolutely key, because if we are constantly running on those corticosteroids due to chronic stress, our immune system is what takes the hit, right?
It really does. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
Corticosteroids are helpful in an acute crisis. They can even reduce inflammation temporarily.
Yeah.
But their continued secretion, day after day, it actually impairs the immune system's ability to function properly.
The very thing designed to save you short-term makes you vulnerable long-term.
Precisely. It's a direct biological link.
How exactly does it weaken the immune system? What's it doing?
It directly affects the function of your specialized white blood cells, the lymphocytes. These are crucial. They're like the soldiers and spies of your immune system, detecting invading pathogens like viruses or bacteria and mounting the defense.
Okay.
When the system is chronically suppressed by these stress hormones, those lymphocytes just can't respond as effectively. They get sluggish, or the numbers might decrease. It leaves your body more open to invaders and potentially to diseases taking hold.
And this link is probably most famous when we talk about heart disease, right? Coronary heart disease, CHD.
Definitely, it's the most common type. CHD is basically the narrowing of the artery walls because plaque builds up.
Yeah.
That's called atherosclerosis.
And we already talked about the hostility link from type A.
Exactly. That chronic hostility seems to be a major physiological trigger contributing to this process. Of course, there are other well-known risk factors too. Age, the risk goes up significantly around 40 family history, high blood pressure, obesity, not exercising, high cholesterol.
And the sources point out a really important health disparity here, something for you, the listener, to be aware of.
Yes, the research consistently shows that Black Americans have a higher death rate from CHD compared to white Americans.
Why is that?
Well, it's complex, but part of it is attributed to higher rates of hypertension and obesity within the Black American community. It really underscores this serious interplay between potentially chronic environmental stress, social factors, genetic predispositions, and these major health outcomes.
It's a stark reminder of how deep these connections run. Beyond the heart, does chronic stress affect other major illnesses, like cancer?
Well, the link isn't always as direct as with hostility and CHD, but chronic stress, by weakening the immune system, certainly doesn't help. Cancer involves uncontrolled cell growth. Your immune system normally plays a role in detecting and destroying abnormal cells.
So a weakened immune system might be less effective at that surveillance.
That's the thinking. While we can't control things like age or family history for cancer risk, the controllable factors become even more important if your immune system is compromised. Things like not smoking, limiting alcohol, eating a low-fat diet, avoiding excessive sun exposure. They're key for reducing overall risk.
Especially important to minimize sun exposure for skin cancer, right? There are different types.
Yes, basal cell carcinoma is the most common, usually less dangerous if caught early. But melanoma is the really dangerous one, the most deadly form. So protection is vital.
And briefly, the immune system link also extends to things like sexually transmitted diseases, STDs.
Absolutely. A compromised immune system makes you more vulnerable to any infection, including STDs like HIV/AIDS, herpes, chlamydia, HPV, prevention abstinence, monogamy with an uninfected partner, safer sex techniques remains paramount.
Okay, it paints a pretty serious picture, our thoughts and stresses turning into potentially arterial plaque or weakened defenses. But thankfully, psychology also offers some powerful tools, some insurance policies against this damage. The sources call them psychological moderators.
Yes, these are buffers, factors that lessen the impact of stress, even when it's present. They're incredibly important.
What's the biggest one?
Arguably, social support. Having strong relationships, feeling connected to others, having people you can rely on. It's a huge factor in coping effectively. It even seems to directly benefit immune system function.
So don't go it alone.
Definitely not. Then you have internal beliefs, things like self-efficacy.
Which is?
Basically, your confidence, your belief in your own ability to handle challenges, to succeed in specific situations. If you believe you can cope, you generally cope better.
Makes sense. What else?
Having a sense of control over your life, or at least perceiving that you have some control, is huge.
Yeah.
Predictability helps too. Knowing what to expect, even if it's unpleasant, is often less stressful than uncertainty.
Okay, control, predictability. And there was one more.
Yes, psychological hardiness. This is a really interesting cluster of personality traits. People high in hardiness tend to show three things. Commitment, they're involved in what they do. They view things as a challenge, an opportunity rather than a crisis. And they have a strong sense of internal control. They believe they influence outcomes.
So they see stress differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They approach it actively as something to be tackled, not something that overwhelms them. They're more resilient.
And if we can cultivate that kind of mindset, that hardiness, we're literally less likely to trigger that damaging HPA axis response quite so strongly or for so long.
That seems to be the case. It buffers the physiological reaction.
Okay, so knowing all this, what are the practical, actionable things we can actually do starting today to manage the distress in our lives?
Right, let's get practical. First, tackle the hassles. This is often the lowest hanging fruit. Try to reduce the daily grind. Know your limits. Don't overschedule constantly. Prioritize what really matters. Maintain a tolerable stress level most of the time.
And for listeners who recognize themselves in that hostility component of type A.
Yeah, make a conscious effort. Try taking things a bit slower sometimes. Actually schedule breaks into your day. And maybe, just maybe, try freeing yourself from the constant digital overload, the emails, the notifications, which really feed that sense of time urgency and pressure.
I like the suggestion in the sources about using humor, too.
Oh, absolutely. Finding humor in situations, taking a lighter perspective. It's a fantastic, very accessible coping mechanism. Don't underestimate it.
What else?
Learn some actual relaxation skills. Deep breathing, meditation, whatever works for you. If possible, gather information about your stressor. Sometimes understanding it makes it feel less threatening. Actively work on expanding your social network, nurturing those connections.
And don't just sit with bad feelings.
Right. Don't keep unsettling feelings bottled up. Try taking a problem-solving approach when you can. Talk things through, and of course, maintain your physical health, stay active, eat reasonably well. It all helps build resilience.
That is really concrete, helpful advice grounded in the science we've discussed. So to sort of wrap up the core finding from this deep dive, stress isn't just in your head. It's not just mental noise. It's a real physical hormonal process. We saw that with the GAS stages and the HPA axis.
And that process, especially when it becomes chronic, directly influences our vulnerability to serious diseases.
But the key to protecting ourselves lies in managing those daily hassles, yes, but also really leaning into those psychological buffers, things like developing hardiness, seeking control, and critically building strong social support.
Exactly. And if we tie this all back, connect those key insights we discussed, like how hostility, that specific pattern of thinking and feeling, is so strongly linked to heart disease, and how chronic stress, via those corticosteroids from the HPA axis, impairs our immune defenses. It really leads to a profound question, doesn't it? Something for you, the listener, to really think about moving forward.
What's the question?
How might our everyday emotional habits, our cognitive patterns, the way we react with anger or cynicism, the way we perceive challenges, how might those fundamentally anchor the actual physical trajectory of our lives, our longevity?
Wow. It really forces you to see your mindset not just as, a personal preference, but as a core pillar of your long-term physical health.
It really does. The mind-body connection isn't just a nice idea, it's biology.